I hit the live button. Sorry, we're live. Because we're gonna do pre-show stuff. No, don't worry about it. We got plenty of time.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, how's it going? Happy Friday, folks.
Way it rolls around here.
Yeah, whatever. No, we're gonna start now. We'll talk about the what you were going to talk about, Russ. But when somebody just informed me, and I didn't remember the date until I saw something online, and then of course it's now 33 years since Live Aid. And, Live Aid was the year that I graduated high school. So that tells you how friggin' old I am. But, I mean, it really was like a sort of a line of demarcation. It was for us, it was sort of our generation's Woodstock in the sense that it was all the musicians all together in two places.
Yep.
And a couple people like Phil Collins went from one place to another. But it was really, an event that you think back on it, and it's sort of awe-inspiring.
Well, I mean, so I started my trek at about 4 a.m. from Long Island. We caravanned with a couple of cars, drove to a bagel store because one of the guys said, look, we don't know if there's going to be any food. So he literally walked into a bagel store and bought like $75 worth of bagels, and they threw it in like a hefty bag. So all along the way, we're like eating bagels. We get there at about 5 a.m. We had a few pops. We go in there. I think they let us in around 6, and they started showing, the stuff from Wembley. And it was crazy because like RFK was massive. And I don't even remember where I parked like this moment, like in the sea of 100,000 people. But so we get in there. It was great. We had pretty good seats. It was a nutty day. It was really hot. A lot of things happened that day. There were co-ed bathrooms after a while because the pipes broke in the ladies' room, so they started using the men's room. Cherry Coke debuted that day. We were getting Cherry Coke everywhere. So many bands. Like I always tell the story for U2. I was in the bathroom because I looked at the long list of all the bands, and my worry was if I went to the bathroom, would they run out of supplies? So I said, well, U2 is kind of a new band. I'll go to the bathroom at that time. So that's when I went. But it was a great time. And to be honest, I didn't drink at all during the day because it was like a 90-something degree day. Yeah. And I knew that would spell disaster. But at night, of course, we started drinking. And, at the end of the day, when the concert ended, we pulled in at this hotel, which was right next to RFK, which at the time was a Hilton. And I want to say a decade later, I actually worked for that hotel and turned that Hilton into a Holiday Inn. So it was weird. Who knew I would ever live in this area? I was just a New Yorker going to the show, and the only reason I got tickets is because a kid basically said, my mother won't let me go. And I'm like, really? I'll buy your tickets.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, I was in Buffalo. I watched it on TV, and I mean, I think it was. I know I watched it on MTV, but was it exclusively on MTV or was it on?
It was on MTV and like Westwood One. Yeah. We had seats that were pretty close to the MTV party area, so we saw like Madonna enter in the party area and enter out like completely blitzed. We saw like Annie Lennox. Anybody who entered the MTV party area, when they exited it, they weren't the same person, but they were good to perform, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm sure. And like I always said, and I'm a Queen fan. I'm not a monster Queen fan, but I'm a Queen fan, and I really like them as a band. If anybody
corrected me, yes, it was JFK, not RFK. I've been to RFK too, so whatever.
Yeah, you mentioned I should have said something. Like, wait a minute,
no, RFK was in Washington.
It was in Philadelphia.
But Queen's performance at Wembley, I mean, if you watch it, I posted it. I'll post it on Twitter, but it's on YouTube. The performance of Queen doing Radio Gaga is incredible because you had 100,000 people. Yeah, you had 100,000 people just following Freddie Mercury, and he was in great voice. It was just an incredible performance. But anyway,
Freddie Mercury, let's just remember, there's been no better frontman of a band than Freddie Mercury. And don't at me, because it's not even a contest.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. Now, the funny thing is
there was the best act the whole night. If you want to know the best act the whole night in Philly, it was the CSNY
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Don't say Led Zeppelin because they were terrible.
No, the Zeppelin was fine, but the CSNY was the best. That was really amazing. And to be honest, as much as I hate Hall & Oates, they were really good with the Temptations because they didn't play any Hall & Oates music. So that was really good too.
No, but Peter is there is a Queen movie coming out in November. And actually, I've seen the preview. It's a guy who plays on a show called Mr. Robot. I think it's Remy Malek is his name.
Yeah.
He looks just like Frank.
They nailed that. He's everything. He got mannerisms. He has the slide over bike going. Yeah. I think he kind of has a little bit to begin with, but he just emphasizes it a little bit more in this case.
Yeah. All right, we'll start. I know it's July 13th, but people want to hear about hockey because we're the only show.
That's why it's the name of the show.
Okay, Anthony, follow me. Hello, hockey, or follow the intro. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Friday, July 13th, 2018.
I'm Anthony Mangione from Sunrise Philly Magazine.
I'm Peter Tessier, enjoying the beautiful Winnipeg summer out here in my backyard.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
The glare is unbelievable, Peter. And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz. No, just leave. Let's go with it. And on HockeyBuzz.com, where we, of course, as usual, like minutes after we complete a show, something big happens, even in July. And yesterday, I think it was around 4 o'clock, the Arizona Coyotes and Chicago Blackhawks made a there you go. That's a little bit. There you go. That's better.
Hey, there you go.
We can see it now. They made a 7-player deal, mostly categorized as a salary dump. Jeez.
It is July 13th, people.
It is July 13th, baby. I got my gin and tonic here. No, not really. Okay, the Arizona Coyotes and Chicago Blackhawks, 7-player deal. Marcus Kruger, prospect Mackenzie Entwistle, minor leaguer Jordan Maletta, and Andrew Campbell, formerly of the Toronto Maple Leafs or Toronto Marlies, goes to Chicago for Marian Hossa, Vinny Hinostroza, Jordan Esterly, and there was an exchange of draft picks. The Coyotes get a 3rd-round pick in 2019. The Blackhawks get a 2019 5th-round pick. Now, Russ, the focus of this deal obviously is Hossa's contract. 3 years left, $5.275 million cap hit, but a $1 million money being paid each year, which means this is perfect for Arizona. This is going in the long line of Pronger and Datsuk and Dave Boland, where they take on a contract that's been front-loaded. They get the cap hit. They hit the cap floor, but they don't pay a ton of money, and they get an asset for that. What do you think of this deal?
Well, I'll tell you, I like it for a few reasons for Arizona. I mean, to be honest, Chicago can't afford to give up Hinostroza. Like, they just their system is getting weaker by the day when they have to make deals like this and give teams ready-made players and get back players that aren't quite ready. Like, that's, and again, they do a great job there of drafting, but man, at some point the well is going to run dry. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I'll have to evaluate it. But Hinostroza is a good player. I mean, he had 25 points for the Blackhawks, and you got to figure if he gets a little bit of opportunity for the Coyotes, he can improve on that a little bit. Right. Mackenzie Entwistle, I saw him a couple of years ago live in the under-18s, and he was fantastic. He had like 7 points in 5 games. He is a 6'3". He'll probably be like a 210, 15-pound winger. I think he could be a 3rd liner. He could be a really good NHL player. Like, this is a good prospect. And again, this is what you have to do these days to sort of, get rid of your cap space. I get it from both sides. I do.
Well, okay, Peter, the loss of Hinostroza, who probably was going to fit into the bottom 6 for Chicago, is sort of mitigated by the return of Kruger. Now, Kruger did not play well in Carolina, and Carolina dumped him on Arizona, and now Arizona moves him to Chicago. But as we've seen in other instances under Joel Quenneville, players who don't play someplace else fit into his system, and he has fit in there before. So I think that maybe, I don't doubt that Hinostroza is a good player and will help Arizona, but I think that Kruger and remember, he's only got 1 year left. That isn't going to hurt Chicago. At least I don't think it will.
No, I mean, I look at this in a few ways. Sort of the pessimistic view, the optimistic view, and then the realist view. The pessimist sort of in me says, Stan Boma's running out of options, so he's going back to what he knows because that's the best he can do, and that sort of I'm kind of pessimistic about that. The optimist says, well, he's finding ways to deal with this cap space issues. He's being as creative as it allows for him, and he's actually making something happen. That's a good thing. But the realist says, man, I think it's a wash for Chicago. I don't think it makes them better. I don't think it makes them worse. I just think it's shuffling the deck chairs. And that's all they're going to get out of this. And Chicago's problems run deeper in that they have money tied up, huge money, and players that don't deliver. And I hate to say it because he's a Winnipeg native, but Jonathan Toews isn't the same Jonathan Toews from 2013. He's put on a lot of miles, and his shot production is down. What happens when he's on the ice is down, and he's eating $10 million a year. And that's hurting them.
Now, Anthony, there was some criticism of Arizona being the dumping ground for these players, but and I can't remember who posted it, but it was a good point. Is that in the deal that they took on Datsuk's contract, they got back a first-round pick that they took Chikrin with. In the deal for Dave Bolin, they got Lawson Krause, and in this deal they get Hinostroza. So they're getting something for that cap space where otherwise they would be, if they spent it on a player on a 2 or 3 year deal. And it's front loaded, or even if it's equal to the cap hit, it's not a benefit to them, and so they're getting something back, and they're using their cap space for a positive way.
That you also have, of course, the fact they actually get two assets. I mean, I think Osterley has a pretty decent chance of being a solid NHL defenseman. Again, a depth defenseman who can push the puck a bit. So in that respect, that's one of the reasons why I said, as much as people wanted to go after Arizona on taking on the contract, they got back usable assets for right now I think that'll help their team over the long haul. So I actually that's the main thing that I look at here. Plus, again, the narrative of them getting to the cap floor, they're already above the cap floor. So that's not what they did this for.
Right.
When I was talking with Kat Silverman, who covers the Arizona Coyotes as well as obviously goaltenders throughout the league for the Athletic. She said, yeah, that's the one thing I'm going to mute right now is anybody mentioning cap floor in any deal because they're already above it. So for them, it was about acquiring assets that they could use for a guy that in Kruger that was going to be coming up on an expiring deal. Once I saw the total deal plus getting a 3rd round pick, you have a chance of potentially getting somebody in that case. Could be potentially as many as 3 assets if you play your cards just right. So in this circumstance, I think Arizona did well. As Russ said, I took a look at Entwistle as well. That's a good return. I think a good return for Chicago. But he's a little further. He's further off. He's not as
long. Yeah, he's 3 years away. So Chicago gets somebody, but it's going to be a while.
Exactly.
Now, I mean, strictly on numbers, and this is not taking into consideration Hossa being put on LTIR. And I asked this question. Russ and I were talking before the show. There is nothing stopping, and I know that you only get a percentage of LTIR back when you put a player, but there's nothing stopping teams that are up closer to the cap from doing a deal like this to get a Hossa to go, to put that guy on LTIR to open up more space. But we haven't seen many instances of that. I mean, Toronto did it a couple years ago where they had Joffrey Lupul, who was on LTIR. They acquired Nathan Horton for David Clarkson, and at one point when they were trying to move things around and get assets for players, they put both of those guys on LTIR to open up space to take salary in. So I'm surprised that teams that are not like near the cap ceiling aren't doing this as well. And maybe that's something that's sort of like an NBA type of move. That's something that we may see in the next year or two before this CBA elapses. But my question is, though, to all of you guys is, do you think that this kind of move is going to be outlawed with the next CBA? Do you think that there'll be a hunger to change it? Peter?
I think the problem coming into all of this is it outlines the flaws in the cap system and how the salary cap is necessary, but this is a system that can be improved upon. And if the idea is to stop runaway spending, that's fine, but teams are still getting around it. And I don't think they have to actually outlaw something like this. They have to change the way the salary cap works and perhaps add in something that allows for expenditures, but also allows for like a luxury tax system or something that like you're going to have to make a hybrid, because the NHL, like I look at it this way. I think NHL players are chronically underpaid in relation to their peers as professional athletes, and the more want that money, and the top guys are getting it, the lesser ones are doing it. Somehow there's going to have to be this argument within the NHLPA of how do you bring the bottom up without affecting the top. And it's going to require some like a paradigm shift in how you look at allocating money to players via teams and via salary cap. I don't know it's an easy solution. What's working isn't there right yet. It's not working the way it should.
The luxury cap would be a bad idea because it's horrible in the NBA. I mean, it causes – if you look at the NBA, some of these guys that get max contracts just because it's like either I give him a max contract or he goes somewhere else. If that starts happening in the NHL, the cap will get a lot worse. So I just think you leave it alone.
Yeah, I mean Carmelo Anthony getting $27 million on an option because he had a max deal with the Knicks that got traded to Oklahoma City. I mean that's an aberration. That's inexcusable. But I mean I do think that there are mechanisms that would make things. To give some flexibility, like basically the NHL version of a Larry Bird exemption or a mid-level exception like the NBA does, because we see things so tight at the trade deadline where teams that want to make deals or teams that have money, like a New York Rangers or a Philadelphia Flyers, they have the money, they want to spend it, but they can't under the current rules of the cap. But Anthony, I think that there has to be some mechanism for these teams to be able to sort of within the rules spend a little more to add a player or two.
I think a variation of what Pete's talking about potentially, if you're going to have a luxury tax, I do find the NBA's sort of rules, especially with the bird exemption, to be a little bit frustrating in terms of tracking who has bird rights, who doesn't have bird rights, and
well, Cap Friendly can do that for us.
Yeah, we'll leave that to them, absolutely. But it in some ways, though, we still, even with all that, we still see these trades. If you look in the NBA, like for yesterday, we saw a very usable player in Kenneth, like 3 different players plus a pick going to the Nets from the Nuggets in exchange for one player who they're about to release. So you're going to see I think you're still going to see these crazy salary dump type of
won't matter that
are going to occur.
Yeah, and we see similar type of deals in baseball too. I mean, you're gonna have like and we were gonna talk about it in the pre-show, but you're gonna have a guy like Manny Machado traded before July 31st because he's not gonna re-sign in Baltimore. Baltimore's not gonna spend the money. Baltimore's on the verge of basically doing a rebuild. And it's a rental situation, but the like 3 or 4 guys they're going to get are not going to play in the major leagues for probably 2 or 3 years.
Here's what you don't want to see. Here's some max contracts. Like Derrick Rose got 5 years, $94 million. Chris Bosh got 5 years, $118 million. There's guys that just and it happens even last year. What did JJ Redick got something like 20-something million?
$23 million contract.
Which he didn't get this year. He came back for less.
He came back, but it was kind of like a wink sort of. It was really 2 year. It was more of a 2-year deal. In reality, balancing out around 17, 18 million, which in the NBA is probably his worth, or at least was his worth last year, but they overpaid in order to bring him in.
Right. So let's say, this is Justin Falk we're talking about, and he got a max contract from the Carolina Hurricanes. He'd be probably making $12 million, $13, $14 million a year. And you would look at him and say, Justin Falk's not worth that.
Yeah, but Russ, the difference with the NBA is you're playing 12 guys, not 23.
Okay.
And you're not,
so the money won't be as high, but it'll be percentage high.
Percentage high it will, but I think, like you're already looking at Tavares. The best guys are going to get that anyways, right? Matthews is going to get something, and we've already got that.
You don't want the middle guys to get that. That's what happens in the NBA now.
I don't think you'll see that because of what middle guys produce and where they sit. Like a middle guy in the NHL is still your 9th person. Your 9th person in the NBA barely sees the floor. So, it's a different thing, and there's more to pay around. And the salary cap is totally different too. I think it's just more how you constrain things. I think the solution that I thought people would like, that we thought would be helpful was the buyout thing. But the margins in the NHL are so tight for teams, you rarely want to see buyouts because no owner wants to piss money away on buyouts that you did. You have to be the richest of the rich to do it, or completely senile like Ed Snyder was. So it's two things. Like, you know, the buyout thing didn't work the way it was. If we're going into another lockout, and let's assume we are, because that's the trend, I want it to be the lockout to end all lockouts. I don't want to see hockey. I will give up watching hockey for 3 seasons for them to get it right and hammer it down. You know, if you want to fix everything, get rid of guaranteed contracts. That'll fix it all. Guys will just cut, and you're free to go sign where you want, and it solves your. And then it's a hard cap. You can't go over and make penalty, and then make things a little weak.
It'll never happen. But let's never go back to
what happens in the NFL already. It's gonna.
Let's not go back to like Bobby Halik's 5-year, $45 million contract. Let's not go back to those days, because when teams spent right around what they're spending now, they were horrible. The Flyers were horrible. The Rangers were horrible. They were just spending. And the players that were making that money were really on the, you know, middle to tail end of their careers. It's not really happening that way right now. I don't want to see that happen.
Yeah, I don't think it will happen, because I think GMs have got.
No, it will.
No, I don't think so, Russ. I think they've gotten smarter. What I think would happen is you'll find the smart ones who recognize that they can do just as well without paying Bobby Halik $9 million a year, and because some of them, the smart ones, are going to learn. You're going to have ones that are bad at their job, so let's weed those guys out too. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying if they're going to go down this road, I want them to fix everything. I don't want to come back here after another 6 years, and in 2028 we're sitting here going, "What's the next lockout issue about?" Fix it once, do it right, be Mike Holmes. Like, there's
not that much to fix. That's the reality, Peter. Like, there's a lot of money.
You wait, Russ. There's going to be a laundry list of stuff.
I'll tell you. Like I said, I'll tell you the hill that they'll die on when this comes up again is going to be the length of contracts, 7 or 8 years. They want to probably get it down to 5 or 6, although they probably will want an exception for guys. You know, teams like, you know, the Leafs will want to sign Matthews for 8 years, but they don't want like to sign like one team. You can have one guy who can be signed for that long. I'll bet you they'll do something. They'll want something like that. But escrow is the other thing, and like Kevin Allen said on a previous show, there's nothing once you have a hard cap system and you have hockey related revenue, you can't really do anything about escrow. So that's a dog that won't hunt. So I don't know where, like, I don't know what the main battle lines are, but if they're going to be other than that, I can't see it. But we'll see. But let's take the argument here to the next step for the Blackhawks, because the Blackhawks opened up, I think it's over $4 million in cap space. Now that's not taking into consideration the LTIR, but it's perceived now that this opens up room for them to make a move to improve them in the short term, because really, you know, they were terrible last year. Brandon Saad had a bad year. Taves had a bad year. They never recovered from the Panarin trade with Columbus. Corey Crawford was hurt, and all of a sudden Duncan Keith and Seabrook look really old. I mean, they had to do something. Now there has been talk about Pacioretty. There's been talk about Jeff Skinner, and Eck brought up in his blog before the show them maybe going back to get Panarin again. It's like, what is it going to be, Panarin for Saad again? But I mean, I think they need to do that simply because that core of that team, Russ, it's got maybe 2 or 3 years. They're in their late 20s. They got to try to win now. Otherwise, they're not good enough right now to win.
They're not good enough right now to win. We don't know the health of Corey Crawford. There's really big issues. Like, honestly, after this year, I would trade either Kane or Taves, and it would probably be Taves because Kane can still skate, and longer term, he's the better guy for this kind of league. You have to do it. At some point, you have to be – you're not going to be able to trade Crawford now because this injury's lingered long enough that with the salary he makes, it's really over what teams want to spend now for goalies. So, you know, they're stuck with Crawford. Whether they get him back ever at the same, you know, ability, that's another question. I don't know what they could do in the free agent market, even right now.
They did sign Cam Ward, so
right.
It's the one.
And that helps them a little bit, sure. I don't know what they could do free agent-wise, though, that tells me they could really be in the hunt. I think with this team, they could maybe get the last playoff spot or nothing. Like they don't seem like any better than that.
Well, there's not much out there in unrestricted free agent. There's not much left. I mean, if you add Joel Ward and Rick Nash, if Rick Nash wants to play, I'm saying there's not a ton left on the UFA market. To my mind, that means they really have to, if they're going to get somebody who can make a difference, they're going to have to make a trade. Now, I don't think that the Skinner possibility is likely. Because I don't know if that's
a good to give up more assets for a guy for a year.
Right, exactly. And now Pacioretty, Skinner, both of them can sign extensions, but that's a question of whether this team. I mean, all the guys that are rumored are 1 year guys. Now, does that mean that? I mean, I agree with you, Russ. It's like eventually, I think they're going to have to move one of Taves or Kane. But in say it's Taves. How much money are you going to have to eat? Because he's $10.5 million. And if he has a year like this year, it's still good, but it's not.
We'll have to eat 2 or 3 of it, but some team will spend $7 for Jonathan Taves for the remainder of his contract. And I'm not sure how many years are left, but somebody will do it.
I think it's 7 years. I think last year was the first year of the 8-year deal.
Okay. So with 7 years left on his deal, would someone take him at 6 for 7 years? Yeah, they probably do that. They probably have to eat that much money,
or take a player back
with a bad contract.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, ooh, sorry about that. That was so that'll be interesting how that plays out. I definitely think that Bowman is going to make some sort of move here because clearing this space only makes sense if they make some other move. And they definitely need scoring. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think Panarin, if Wadek is reporting, and I don't doubt that there's rumors out there, and Panarin is going to move somewhere because unless Columbus is just going to go for it with Bobrovsky and Panarin this year and lose them both in free agency, if they trade Panarin, and he's liked it in Chicago before, I'm sure he would like it again. I don't know if he's going to sign an extension, but
I kind of wonder though, Mike, in terms of because if you're his agent, you look at the situation in Chicago and you kind of have to wonder. As good a market as obviously Chicago is, the team is on a downturn, and if you're getting into the prime of your career,
right,
going to get a little bit tough. I think he's going to be much like Tavares in the fact that he's going to want to be able to pick out the place that he wants to go to. I know the word was from Elliot Friedman was the fact he wanted to be closer to a body of water of some kind in this case. That's something, lifestyle is obviously something of importance to him here.
Lake Erie is nice this time of year.
Yeah, for 2 months.
Nice.
Okay.
So again, these are different things that we're going to have to consider here with Panarin. I know, Russ, your feeling was that the Rangers are definitely going to be in play here.
Yeah, I think he's going to wherever he's going to be. It'll probably be Columbus. He'll probably ride it out, and then I think he's going to go to free agency, and I think the Rangers will make him a massive offer.
Yeah, I mean it's good. I mean that situation and how it unfolds is going to be very interesting. But okay, let's move on to the signing this morning, and it goes along with the signing from yesterday, Peter, of Connor Hellebuyck, the Marc-Andre Fleury signing in Vegas. Now he was under contract for next season, so it's a 3-year extension. So it starts after next season at $7 million per. I think he's 33 right now, so this would take him into his mid-30s. But my first reaction to seeing this deal was he got a little bit extra because he put that franchise on his back and carried him to a Stanley Cup final, and this was Bill Foley's way of saying thank you very much.
I totally agree. I wouldn't. Any other team probably doesn't give Marc-Andre Fleury $7 million a year for 3 years, but Marc-Andre Fleury might be able to actually earn it. He might not, but he might. And I think it's also the idea that you don't want to lose him because not only did he put the team on his back, he was instrumental in that community and with the players and stuff. You're paying him for the intangibles as well, right? That dreaded word that many in our community don't like. You're paying him for other things away from his on-ice performance, I think, with that. And he embraced Vegas. He's been nothing but a class act, and I think that for Bill Foley, that's worth money.
Yeah, I look at it like this. I think Marc-Andre Fleury would still be worth $6 million a year anywhere else. I think he got an extra $1 million a year for what he's worth to them. I still want to know what happened to the giant chocolate Marc-Andre Fleury. I don't know what happened to that. Nobody has really a story on that. I'd like to know.
It's a bone. It's one of his bonuses in the contract, I think. Somewhere, he's got a refrigerant room in his house, probably in the basement area, where he could go in, and then there it is, the shrine to.
I like it, but I want follow up on that. But anyhow,
it was sent down to Hershey, Pennsylvania.
But when you look at their goalies, I mean, honestly, you have Malcolm Subban, who's clearly not ready. You have Dylan Ferguson, who's not ready. Like, everybody who played last year is not,
we just never know about.
Yeah, everybody who played last year was not ready, but they had to use them because of everything that happened. So to push this 3 years down the line after this year is smart, knowing how long it takes to really develop a goalie and see who sort of comes out of the pack and looks like they can be the next guy to take over after him. This is good. I mean, even if they go up and down Vegas a little bit, they'll be competitive with Fleury.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And again, in many ways, I look at him, and I'll borrow this phrase from Pete in terms of the intangibles part. He's to that franchise what Bernie Parent was to the Flyers as a team that was brand new for the most part on the block. Obviously, the Flyers were several more years into their existence at that point. But again, it was kind of unheard of for a team that young to be able to win a championship. And for that team to get as far as they did, he's the public face of the franchise. He's loved in that city. One of the key factors after what happened, obviously, with the shooting, the whole team as well, but he was certainly a face out in front. And whether people like it or not, combine his performance last season where, again, 3 rounds of the playoffs, he was unquestionably the Conn Smythe winner through the Western Conference Finals. I don't think anybody would question that. So it is very much a reward in this case. And again, we're going to see over the long term what happens. But you're right. You look at the other goalies in system, not ready yet, and a 3-4 year window is not a bad idea here to have with him.
All right. So the update is, as of June 23rd, it was still at the Bellagio. So I guess it's still there.
It'll remain throughout the summer.
They have the Titanic exhibit, and they have the Marc-Andre Fleury chocolate exhibit. So,
and in between, you'll have Celine Dion singing on to both.
Okay, now that signing was dwarfed by the incredible, impactful signing made by the New York Rangers, signing Cody McLeod to a 1-year deal. Russ, I know you wanted to talk about this and express your pleasure at this signing.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of scuttlebutt online about this, and rightly so. Like, again, here's the argument, and I get both sides of it. The argument is, if you're a rebuilding team, why do you need Cody McLeod? And then there's the other argument, well, you are a rebuilding team, so you have to plug your lineup with guys like Cody McLeod to work around a lot of the young guys. And I think in this day and age, you don't need Cody McLeod. I don't care that he's good in the room. I think you have enough guys on that team that could sort of police things. Chris Kreider can police things. I mean, do you really need a guy who's pretty limited in what he can do? I mean, again, I think they paid $1 million, right?
No, I thought it was $650.
$650. Okay, so I mean, you're only paying $650 for the guy. $750.
$750.
So I mean, look, it's not great if he's taking ice time away from younger players. That's the problem. My question is, how much is he really going to protect young players? Like last year, he played 25 games. He had 39 PIMs, and he had 2 points. Is that really worth $750?
Now, Peter, like, I don't think anybody was pushing anybody around in Winnipeg because you had Bufflin there, and Bufflin was going to be the policeman if somebody got. But you did have Matt Hendricks, and Matt Hendricks is sort of an energy guy, and I think would drop the gloves if necessary, and a guy who was good in the room. So I do think, I sort of disagree a little bit with Russ. I mean, in the instance here with the Rangers, I think the Rangers are going to play their young guys, Anderson and Cheadle. And if they do that, I think they just don't want anybody to take advantage of them. So that's why they have Cody McLeod there as sort of like the nuclear missile that you pull out in case somebody tries to pull some crap.
Whether you're someone who agrees with it or not, that element still exists within the game, that role, that idea, and it may be slowing down or phasing out, but it's not out.
How many times a year do you need him, Peter? Like if you're playing in Metro teams, who do you need it against? You don't really need it against the Flyers. You don't need it against the Devils. The Islanders.
The Islanders.
You need it against, sure.
Sure now.
Bruins,
okay.
You know, I'm not saying it's necessarily needed, but you don't have to always. I mean, yes, you play your divisional opponents more, but you know, you've got some rivalries elsewhere. You need it in theory. The theory being, you need it because these guys are young. Guys are going to take advantage of them, and you need the check and balance. Whether you agree with that logic or not is a different subject.
Right.
But that's probably the logic being used. And right or wrong, that's the choice they've made. And at this point, if it's not hurting the team salary cap or ability to sign other people,
right?
Take the money out of it. And the Rangers have probably
take the money out.
Just as much money as the Maple Leafs do, so they can do whatever they want with money.
Sure.
But if it's hurting them from not icing the best team, that's a coach's decision, and you criticize the coach.
Okay, but again,
what's on the ice and what he wants the players to do. And if he wants McLeod in there to protect, and it's hurting development because it's taking away other options, that's the argument you make.
Well, I just say this. I mean, look, the chat room's pretty they don't want to hear about enforcers, and I know a lot of fans don't want to hear about enforcers. You know, at the end of the day, I look at it and say, McLeod really doesn't produce much else. He really doesn't.
Okay, I can just say this, and Anthony, I want your thoughts on this. I can say from viewing it firsthand, even though he only played 50 games this year and played only 3 times after the All-Star break, last year and this year in the first half, Matt Martin was an important part of the Maple Leafs. He was an important part in terms of team building and on the ice in terms of, protecting guys like Matthews and Marner. If they got pushed around, he was on the ice and he would make that player accountable. Now, I don't know what his role exactly is going to be in the island. I think, and there's a situation where he was being paid $2.5 million, and everybody was saying you're going to have to eat money, you're going to have to, take a player back. Neither one of those things happened. The Leafs traded him back to the Islanders, and they didn't retain $1, and they took back a contract who's probably gonna be off their books next year. So they were able to move him on because another team saw value in him, and maybe in the absence of Tavares. I mean, now you've got Komarov, Ross Johnston, and Matt Martin. I mean, I don't know if they're going to try to be the 97 Buffalo Sabres and goon it up, but so they had to do something, and making, improving the physicality of the team. It was one option.
Yeah, and certainly with them going after, as you said, Komarov and Johnston, and obviously adding Martin to the mix. These are things that teams are going to be having to take into account, especially. But again, it's a strange thing, certainly from me covering the Flyers, is that the Flyers have had this long-standing reputation, but in reality, if you're looking at Philly's lineup, the one guy you look at, I mean, you have Wayne Simmons, but you don't want him fighting too much. I mean, here and there, certainly, but you want a guy who can play. And then you got Radko Gudas, but even Gudas, after he's been suspended for a long period of time, he's not quite the player. We'll have to see this season whether or not he gets back his physical edge again. But even now, Philadelphia doesn't have sort of that classical thing. In many ways, if you're looking at it from a classical Flyers-Bruins perspective, the Islanders are out flyering the Flyers in this case in that traditional role. So I'm kind of on the. I certainly understand from your point of view, Mike, of the fact that these guys are important from when you have a very young lineup, and there has to be some level, and you have to have some level of protection. Do you have to have that many guys like Lou has right now?
No,
I don't think that's probably necessary. I think Komarov certainly made sense, but I felt like Martin on top of it. This is where Lou is basically saying he values not just the physicality, but I think he's valuing them for what he thinks what they bring in the room in helping some of their younger players along. But it certainly won't be from a skill set perspective. Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to Erik Karlsson. Now, there's no real news on that front, and it doesn't sound like there's going to be a lot in the near future. Although things keep popping up back and forth. Chris Stevenson wrote something in the Athletic that essentially said the reason now that the Senators offered the 8-year max deal to Karlsson, and Karlsson turned it down, and obviously Karlsson, it appears he wants out, and that's not any kind of great revelation. But one of the factors that led Karlsson to reject the Senators' deal was the fact that, unlike the Tavares deal and unlike other 8-year deals that have been signed recently, it had almost no signing bonus. Whereas like Tavares had 70 of 77 million in signing bonus payable on July 1st. The deal with the Senators, or the offer made by the Senators, had almost none, and that's a reflection of the fact that the Senators are a team in financial strife right now. So I mean, Russ, the report went on to say that right now it's sort of like Dorian is waiting for the other teams to blink. He's expecting to get Heiskanen from Dallas. He's expecting to get the big package from Tampa, and both of them are sort of playing it cool, knowing that the Senators have to move him. But the Senators could go into the season like this. They could wait and wait and wait.
And I think, if it continues like this, they're going to.
It might be a Matt Duchene situation, not something like that. We were waiting all summer last year for Matt Duchene to get moved. Didn't happen until we got into the season. He had to play.
Yep.
And he got dealt. We could and again, Hoffman is now – you don't have Hoffman in the room anymore. I mean, there's obviously other things that go into the mix there, but they could say, hey, we're trying to find the deal for you. Come in, do what you do, and then we'll go from there. But
just so the chat room's going crazy with Henrik Zetterberg and his back. He golfed yesterday, so I wouldn't worry about his back.
Jesus. Yeah, no, and
with Erik Karlsson, if that matters to anybody.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, I remember we said that yesterday, but yeah. I just think with Karlsson, I mean, the only risk here to Ottawa is. The only risk to Ottawa here is a Josh Donaldson situation, meaning you keep him in the last year, hoping that you can trade him at the trade deadline, and then all of a sudden he pulls a muscle in his calf and he's out for 3 months, and now all of his trade value is gone. I'm sure that somebody will want to trade for Erik Karlsson if he's healthy, and there'll probably be a very healthy market for him. But if he gets hurt again, they're not going to get anything for him. So that's the concern. This is a game of chicken. If I was Dorian, I would definitely want to get this done before he steps on the ice, because with Karlsson and his injuries, you never know what's going to happen.
True.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's do our little game from yesterday, and we'll take a couple questions from the chat.
You know the rules of this game, though, Michael.
I will fill you in on the rules, Mr. Mangione. So what we were doing is taking unrestricted free agents, currently unsigned, and making a determination of whether they were going to be signed to a 1-year contract. Invited on
this game. We've played this before.
Yes. It's an oldie but a goodie. Invited to training camp on a PTO or nada. So we did yesterday.
Not to be confused with Haloti Nada, who is a Philadelphia Eagle now, but that's it.
No, we're not gonna. And I'm trying to avoid the guys like Jason Garrison, who didn't play at all last year, and I think it's probably not a. I mean, maybe he gets invited to a training camp, but I'm avoiding him and avoiding Brooks Orpik, because I'm assuming Brooks Orpik is going to get signed by somebody, but you never know. Okay, first one. Former Montreal Canadian, former Buffalo Sabre, Josh Georges, 33 years old, only played 33 games for the worst team in the NHL. He made $3.9 million last year. Peter, you first. 1-year deal, PTO or nada?
PTO.
PTO? Okay.
PTO.
Say that again. I'm sorry, you broke up there.
No, yes, PTO.
Okay. Anthony.
I'm going to go with nada. I don't know if he's got anything left.
Russ?
Nada.
Yeah, I'm going nada. I mean, because he was completely unimpressive with the worst team in the league. Yeah, and he had injury problems, but I don't think, honestly, I don't think the perception of Josh Georges was really good throughout the league when he blocked a trade to Toronto, because it was a team. He played for Montreal. He blocked a trade to Toronto because Toronto's our mortal enemy, and I'm not going to be accepted trade. Well, yeah, but you'll go to Buffalo, who's in the same division. It was sort of bizarre. So I honestly, I don't think
maybe he realized afterwards how dumb that move was in the first place.
Right. Yeah, it was very dumb. But
I do want to mention this just because everybody was sort of getting snippy about tennis the other day and being a sport. So Kevin Anderson just got through with the longest semifinal match ever in Wimbledon history, 6 hours and 37 minutes. Just imagine playing tennis.
Who did he beat?
Baseball game that's that long, Russ. I mean, come on.
Who did he beat?
Isner, an American. He's a giant guy. He's like 6'7".
Oh, great! So two guys who are going to be completely exhausted are going to play against Milos Raonic.
Yeah,
so
you'll hear more updates.
Oh, God. Sorry, anyway. All right. Dan,
any more Wimbledon updates on the show? Thank you.
Yeah, please.
No, we're good. That's it.
Okay. Veteran defenseman Dan Hamhuis, 35 years old. Vancouver, Nashville, and Dallas played last year with the Stars, scored 24 points in 79 games, averaged over 20 minutes a game, made $3.75 million. 1 year deal, Anthony, nada or PTO?
I'm vacillating between 1 year deal and PTO. Considering he did play 20 minutes on average, I think someone is going to offer him a 1 year deal, especially if an injury takes place.
Peter?
Yeah, I agree with Anthony. I think it's going to be a 1 year deal. I think his reputation is going to carry him a little further in this, and I think there'll be a team that will give him like $1 million or 1.5 and have him as a great number 6 left-hand D.
Russ?
I think it's a PTO because I think we're forgetting he won't play on the East Coast. He is a guy that wants to stay Midwest to West Coast. He said that.
If things start getting tight,
then he won't play. I bet.
Offer then
I bet he doesn't play.
I think Russ, if he has to play in the East, he's going to probably ask for more money, and that's
never played in the East.
I know he's never played in the East. He's played Nashville, Dallas, and Vancouver, and I think is he from BC, Peter? Or
yes,
yeah, he's from BC.
Yeah.
He's from, I think, Paris.
Peter knows his grandmother.
Peter knows his
I don't know his grandmother.
I think it's a 1 year deal, and I've said it in a couple columns. This would be, I think, the best case scenario for Toronto because they could sign him for a year. He's played for Babcock before. He's the only guy in free agency right now who it could even sniff at a top 4 spot. And then you just walk away after the year, and with the Leafs, it'd be they'll have Liljegren or some they'll have another opportunity to improve on defense. But I think he's the best option as a 1 year stopgap. So I think he's going to get a 1 year contract from somebody, but I don't know. You may be right, Russ. It may be somebody west of the Mississippi.
It's going to be somebody out west, and it'll be last minute when an injury occurs or something.
Yep. Okay. Forward Matt Reed, 32 years old, only played 18 games for the Flyers last year, coming off a contract making $3.625 million a year. Anthony, we'll start with you first. 1 year deal, PTO, or nada?
I think you would think based off of potential usage as a penalty killer, he would potentially get a contract. But Flyers penalty kill was bad last year. And
it was bad.
It was really, really.
He was
the
best guy on a bad kill.
Best guy on a bad kill, and that's gonna hurt him. If he was one of those guys where I looked at it and said, if he doesn't get a sniff of a contract in the first week, he was heading to PTOville. So I'm gonna just go with that. I'm gonna say he will get invited to a camp on a PTO.
Russ?
Yeah. I think it's a PTO, but I think Drew's right. I think he ends up playing in Europe. I don't even think he'll play in the NHL.
But yeah.
Peter?
Sorry, I missed the name when you said it, Mike.
Oh, Matt Reed, Philadelphia.
This is a wag. PTO.
Yeah, I think I definitely think it's PTO. And if he plays okay in training camp, some team will sign him for like $800,000 for 1 year. But nobody's going to take.
He's a good character guy. He's well liked in the room. But So from an intangible perspective, a team can certainly find value in him with that.
He can still skate.
His game was all about speed before, and he's not as fast as he used to be. And without that, that takes a lot away from him.
Yeah, he can keep up. He can keep up, but he's lost his complete ability to get separation or finish. That's the problem.
Nobody will sign him on faith. That's what I'm saying.
No.
Okay. Next, he played in the Stanley Cup final. He's only 28 years old, and he's an unrestricted free agent. And I believe he's a former Flyer first-round pick, Lucas Spiza.
Mm-hmm.
14 points in 30 games. He was making $3.6 million. I think Vancouver signed him to that ridiculous.
Yeah, that's some of Benning's handiwork.
Yeah, we'll start with you, Peter. 1-year deal, PTO or nada for the.
Didn't do all that poorly with Vegas. That's the interesting thing, and I don't know what his underlying numbers say.
Your volume.
Sorry, not better.
There you go.
You had your hand on the mic.
I think I threw my hand over just doing something. He played 30 games for Vegas last year. He was averaging 19 minutes a game. I think someone's going to get a look at him. He's going to get a cheap 1-year contract.
Okay, Russ.
Yeah, he'll get a cheap 1-year deal, but the 3.6 is why he's in the position he's in now. He's going to have to settle for 1.25 or something.
Yeah, defensemen always get, even though it's somebody young, even though it's somebody, like Hamhuis will get over $1 million if he gets a 1-year deal. Spiza will probably get over $1 million. Anthony, what do you think?
Very rough final. Watching him. He's a tough spot there. Initially, the initial impression was it was a rough performance in the final, but in a league where he's a 28-year-old defenseman. I think he's 1-year contract away from potentially having to play in Europe soon. Mm-hmm. So I think he'll sign on with the team at $1 million. And I'm looking at it in this case. If the Flyers ended up signing Christian Folin for $800,000, he may not. I don't think he's going to get $1 million.
Okay.
I think it's a 1-year deal, but I think he's going to be under $1 million.
Okay. I know, Anthony, you got to get going. So, and I think he'll get a 1-year deal. So, I know you got to get going. So, you can pick the last one here first. That's veteran winger Joel Ward, 37 years old, played 51 games for the San Jose Sharks, was making a little over $3 million a year. 1-year deal, PTO or nada. Anthony.
I'm going to say with Ward. At his age, if he was about 3 years younger, I would say 1-year deal. Now I'm thinking PTO.
Okay. We'll talk to you tonight, Anthony.
Good one, guys.
Peter,
Yep.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think the age thing is caught up with Ward, and he's a solid guy. I think there's nothing you want to say poor. There's no poor things you can say about Ward, but I think it's PTO.
Russ.
Yeah, I go PTO. I think that he's slowed down, so a team's going to want to see how he skates and how he possibly fits in with a club. So I think he's in the PTO territory.
I think he's in the PTO category, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Vegas. I mean, he has a history with McPhee. I mean, that could be if he came in cheap, a 1-year deal there. But I think anywhere else, he would be a good fit with a team that's a contending team that has a little cap space. If he takes a 1-year $750 or $800, they might make that move. So I'm sort of vacillating between 1-year deal and PTO. So I'll say PTO, but he could get a 1-year deal. All right, Russ, any questions in the chat?
All right, let's see. There's people complaining about the Leafs ticket prices have shot up, but we knew that would happen. So that's all right.
Yeah, any complaints?
Someone's got to pay for Tavares.
That's right.
Any complaints about people losing Twitter followers?
No, actually,
60.
Yeah, I didn't lose much. I saw that Obama and Katy Perry lost over $1 million apiece.
Yes, I only lost 150. So no bots, no lock accounts here.
All right. So first question comes from Cousin Eddie in disguise. Who does Mike think will be the 4C for the Leafs?
Barring any free agent signing, and since I looked at the free agency and there's really nobody out there that I think would be a good, like Joe Coburn is not going to be the fourth line center. I think it's good. I think they're going to go with Par Lindholm, the guy that they brought over from the SHL. I saw one thing,
but they re-signed the GOAT. The GOAT's not going to.
The GOAT he'll be residing daily at the Coca-Cola Coliseum. And Chipotle, because apparently that's his favorite restaurant.
That's everybody. That's every hockey player's favorite restaurant.
I like Moe's better than Chipotle.
I like Pancheros better than them both.
I've never heard of that one. Is that local?
No, it's everywhere.
Okay, it's not in Buffalo.
Not Buffalo. Buffalo, they're always last to get it.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. Matt Borkowski said, Subiza to the Rangers. I don't think so.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy that they don't want to get at this point.
Yeah.
They already have Brendan Smith. That's
and Brendan Smith's making $4 million.
Right. Let's see. No, it looks like I'm going to go one more time through, but I think that's it for questions.
Okay. Well, it's Friday, so everybody wants to get the hell out of here. So why not?
Wait.
Oh, okay.
One more.
Bezanetti in disguise again?
No. Oh wait, now this is just asking one guy another thing. All right, here.
Oh yeah, we'll do that.
Would Anton Strawman come back to the Rangers next year, or is that bridge burned? I don't think there's a bridge burned. I think he was a little annoyed that he didn't get an offer, but I don't think they'd want him back at this point. Like again, I think I don't think they want any defenseman like any older than Shattenkirk. Like I think that's going to be the dividing line now.
So one quick question. Do you think that within this next season, you're going to see one of Brendan Smith or Stahl traded? Now, they both have, 3 years left on their contract?
You can't trade Brendan Smith, and he's definitely going to come in lighter than he did last year. So he'll try and win a spot on this team, which is possibly winnable. So I think that Stahl is a guy who I think next year could get bought out. Like, I think at that point, enough's enough. I think they'll have enough players that they could either get somebody in free agency or somebody who will graduate through the system, and you'll plug them in there instead of Mark Stahl. There is another question. David Buckley, actually, there's a couple more. I missed a few. Do we think Luke Cunnin will play a more prominent role in Minnesota? Yeah, no question. I think he would have played it last year if he didn't get hurt. That guy's got a great shot. So, yes, I think that's a definite. The other one is, do we think this is from Matt. Do we think it's a smart idea for Hextall to bank on a rookie to take over the 3C slot instead of going out and signing a surefire replacement? Well, who's saying a rookie is going to be in the 3C slot? I think you might see Lawton there, and unfortunately, you're going to probably see Yuri Laterra back where you don't want him to be, and you're counting out Laterra, and I'm saying don't do that yet unless something happens out of camp.
Just look at it this way. St. Louis spent $5 million AAV for 3 years for a third-line center in Tyler Bozak. Did you really want the Flyers to spend that kind of money on a third-line center when they're really not ready to win a Stanley Cup yet?
No, and even if Abe Cabell or even if Danik Martel were to make the team, they're still not going to play center. So yeah, they'll have to deal with it. That's all.
Well, let's finish it up with this. Peter suggested it in our little chat here to predict who will win the World Cup. Russ, since I see those Croatian pom-poms back on the windowsill there, I know who you're going to pick. It's just what the score will be.
Croatia will win 3-2 in extra time.
Okay. Peter?
France will win 3-1.
Damn it, you stole my pick. That was what I was going to say 3-1. Yes. France will suffocate them with their body odor. Oh, no, just kidding. No, France.
I didn't know we had Don Cherry on as a guest.
When Croatia wins, I will definitely troll Mike, because I was on the phone the other day when England got scored on, and Mike was just like in so much fake pain.
I was crestfallen. I told you I wanted England to win.
Mike's Italian.
No, it was fake pain. It was like
it was not fake pain.
It was.
He was rolling around like Neymar.
It wasn't. This wasn't like the Diamondbacks beating the Yankees in the World Series. This wasn't like I forget who was the fat reliever that had all the gnats on the pitching mound.
Jabba Chamberlain.
Jabba Chamberlain fighting off the Nats on the pitching mound. It wasn't like that.
This was not Don Denkinger and Todd Worrell in '85.
No, you were just.
You're wrong. You don't know. You don't feel my pain. You don't know my pain.
Yeah.
Okay, so I also say I'll say 2-1 instead of 3-1, but that was my original prediction, Peter. So it is actually 3-1. I'm gonna.
As long as one of us is right.
there
One
you
of us
go.
will be right. It'll be me, and you two suckers will be wrong.
Yes. Okay. For sucker Peter Tessier, for sucker Russ Cohen, I'm sucker Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.